All right, welcome everybody to another competitive match for BR1's Hell Let Loose team. Today we are playing ESPT. And with me in the booth today, I have a former Shammer and Dark Caesar. Guys, go ahead and say hi and introduce yourselves.
Hey, how you guys doing? Former Shammer and part of the music department in BR1. You should probably see a couple of my songs pop up on the stream today.
Dark.
Hello, guys. I'm Dark Caesar. I'm part of the board with BR1, one of the founding members, and I deal with the risk side of BR1 gaming. And I also played on comp team.
All right, guys, thanks for joining me. And for our interview today, pre-match, we have Interceptor, the director of Hell Let Loose within the BR1 community. Interceptor, say hi.
How's it going, everybody?
So, you've been a director for a while now, and you've been seeing the growth of the comp team. What do you think has been key to their success to get to where they're at in such a short time period?
Personally, I think it's a humbleness. The guys are not afraid to take constructive criticism. They work well together. They share ideas. They just really have taken a very grassroots approach to how this game plays and to make sure that they are a good fit team. They work well together and they enjoy it and have a good time.
Yeah, and you have a unique perspective on this because you, like me, we played on the first iteration of the joint comp team between TL and BR1 over a year ago. So we're able to kind of look at it. And I really agree with you. I think the humbleness and the constructive criticism has been a huge change and is why we are at where we are. You're an artillery guy, correct? That is kind of
That's right.
where you specialize. So, what is going to be, as an artillery guy, what is the biggest thing that you can take away for anybody who's playing this, who might play in pub matches or comp? What is something that you would tell them is key for artillery?
Well, the main thing I would say for artillery, at least being active on the gun, is speed and efficiency when you're acquiring your targets, getting from one spot to the other spot that you need to be on, being accurate in your targeting. So knowing exactly what spot you need to be on so that you're not getting splash damage on your own team. And the other big concern always is watching your flank. Defenses at the beginning to try to funnel your enemy that might be coming in and take out the arty, I think is key for any arty team.
Those are really good points. So one last question before I send you back down so you can prep is what side are we playing today? Are we Germany or are we the U.S.?
We're going to be on the United States side.
All right, so U.S. on Sam Marie Dumont. Guys, stay tuned. Shammer and Dark, do you have any questions for Intercept before we let them go?
I do have.
Yeah, you can
Go
go.
ahead,
Go ahead.
Shamir. Go ahead.
Well, I guess the biggest thing I have for being artillery is kind of what's one of the biggest struggles, especially when you're not getting your call-ins and your grid coordinates from the teammates out there, and you're kind of left hanging a little bit.
The biggest thing is just to watch the ebb and flow of the battle. I mean, it's really hard because you're always, as an artillery guy, you're fighting blind, right? You're not exactly sure what's going on in the field. So watching the blueberries, if you will, seeing how they're moving on the field, seeing where dots are suddenly dropping off the map, so you know your guys are getting taken out. That's usually a good indicator to say, hey, the enemy's in that general vicinity. Let's see if we can throw some extra defenses their way or help give the push to get to the next objective. So the biggest takeaway is watching the ebb and flow of the battle on the map and constantly bringing that map up so you can see what's going on and be able to react to it.
Dark, you had a question as well?
Yeah, so Interceptor, you being the director, you would know this. What are some of the big names from your guys that we should probably watch out for that are kind of high intensity and high kill players?
I'd say Mikey's one of them. I mean, he's one of the lead strategist guys on our team, so he's going to be good to watch out for. It's hard for me to give a good answer to that because I'm not boots on the ground with most of the guys. We're typically in the back. But I will say, from a command standpoint, Hazah is another one. I mean, he's obviously the comp team lead. They give really good direction, so they're going to be the ones that are basically playing chess with the map and making sure that our lead strike teams are there where they need to be. But I will say, you always got to watch out for my brother Tranick, who's on the field, because he's sneaky. He will crawl 100 meters if he has to get to an objective and come up behind you and get you. So always watch out for that guy.
All right, awesome. Well, hey, thanks, Interceptor. Go ahead and head on back down, join the team, do your rest of the prep. We'll see you on the field in about 10 minutes.
All right, appreciate it, guys.
All right, so Dark, being a former comp player, what do you want to see? Give me one key to the game today. One key to the game for BR1 to come away with this match.
The biggest key is communication and controlling the map, like he said. It's a game of chess. So just watching the map a lot, watching the squad leaders getting their OPs in different areas, and really you can kind of determine by whoever has the most OPs down and who can do the most flanking, really how the points are going to go.
And Shammer, being former military and a strategist, what are you looking for? What's one thing that you want to see these squads and the armor units do?
I think it's going to come down to who can support their tank the longest. I know watching BR1 TV for a couple months now that there are a lot of one medium tank. I think it's going to come down to who can support their tank the longest, keep it in play the longest, and who can hold that flank. As soon as the flank falls, that flank's going to collapse immediately. I think it's where they can set it up. They're going to have to focus on rotating the flanks. Battlefield is a 360 degree playing field, and the flanks are going to be changing constantly. I think it's going to come down to who can keep that tank up the longest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the combined arms tactics are going to be really important, especially with 3 tanks on the field and artillery. The communication, like you said, Dark, is going to be vital. And also, what I want to see, obviously, is going to we've talked about this with Rarg in previous matches. I want to see some big flank movements. BR1's been fantastic about getting OPs and garrisons in positions to attack points from areas that aren't as expected. Especially on Saint Marie Dumont. It's going to be really interesting. And we're going to take a quick break here, go to a flyover. Match should be starting in give or take 8 to 10 minutes, guys. So if you're watching, enjoy the flyover. Enjoy the music by a former Shammer here, and we will be back with you soon. All right, welcome back, everybody. Now we have teams starting to join in. ESPT is jumping in. BR1 is already in the server. Again, I'm here with Dark Caesar and a former Shammer in the booth. All right, guys, so as game time's coming up, we're almost there. You know, St. Marie Dumont, we got a little bit of urban tactics. We got a little bit of, you know, open ground with some hedgerows, a typical Normandy type landscape. So, you know, what do you guys want to see? Come on, Dark. Give me what you want to see coming out of BR1 and what we might see coming out of ESPT that could throw a wrench in that plan.
I want to see a lot of flanking. So these games are won by ground. So you can have great tank teams and everything, but as long as you're flanking consistently, those tanks, they just get outnumbered very quickly by AT. I also want to see them in control of their AT and pushing very heavily to make sure that the tanks don't stay long on the battlefield. I think if we, as BR1, could keep their tanks down, I think we could easily do a 3-2.
Okay.
So I honestly believe that it comes down to the first point.
You know, you bring up actually a really good point when it comes to the flanks and the AT troops. Something we've seen out of the BR1 guys over the last few matches is an excellent swarm of AT troops anytime they get a tank spotted. You know, we've done really well on that in every match I've seen, so I think that's a good key for both sides, especially BR1, is when they get those tanks spotted to get those AT troops out there to basically stop them in their tracks, make them fall back, and give support to their armor. Shammer, same question to you. What are you looking? What does BR1 need to do to win, and what does ESPT need to do to win?
Well, as you said, there's a little bit of urban combat going on. I want to see how well they control those city streets, because a lot of times you can get bogged down in the streets and the corridors down there. I want to see how well they push through. I think it's gonna come down to choke points. I think it's gonna come down to how well they hold corners, and I think it's also gonna come down to if they get a tank stuck down there, if they can take one out and create a 2-ton blockade.
Yeah, I think that's going to be key. You know, we don't know what our points are going to be yet. Those are going to be, you know, I'll show the map once the map flips so we see where we're fighting. If we're going to be straight lined or if we're going to be kind of spread all around. So it will be interesting to see. I know BR1's excited for this match. I know ESPT is as well. So, you know, I think we're going to see a good match. St. Marie Dumont, you know, we got some of the farms around that provide some good cover, a lot of trench systems, a couple gliders, and a lot of hedgerows. So it's going to be very important to watch their flanks as well as to, you know, Caesar, as you said, to exploit those flanks and get out there and actually get around whatever defenses each team might set up. So, you know, as we're waiting here, you know, a little bit ESPT, they're one of the top level communities out there when it comes to HLL comp. I know they're competing in the HCA currently, and, you know, they've taken a lot of experience from HLLTC and concentrating more on the comp side. So, Dark, I mean, I don't think we ever played ESPT, did we, as our combined TL BR1 comp team?
I believe we did. So, but I have watched a couple of their matches, especially whenever they were still HLL. And they do a lot of flanking, they do a lot of tank pushing, and usually with their tanks, they're heavily supported by infantry.
Yeah, they do have some good tankers. I don't know if anybody here that was watching the foreign match that we had, ESPT tankers and an infantry squad was there, and they did a fantastic job disrupting BR1's backlines with their light tanks and holding flanks as an infantry squad, preventing BR1 from capitalizing on that stuff. So it's going to be a very interesting match. I'm excited to see it. Both teams are going to get a lot of experience here. BR1's playing some of the best out there. ESPT's getting some guys into HCA so they can get some experience. I think overall this is going to be a very, very good match. My prediction for it right now is I think it's going to be 2-3. I think BR1 might be able to pull it out, but I would not be surprised if ESPT is able to hold that midpoint and keep BR1 at bay. What about you, Shammer? Who do you think is going to come out? What's your count?
I'm taking 4-1. I'm thinking BR1's going to have an upset. I'm thinking there's going to be a swing in there at some point during the match. There's always a swing involved at some point. Someone's going to get caught off guard or behind the line, and they'll be back happen. And then that 2-3 swing is going to come in. Then a 4-1 is going to happen.
All right. So BR1 with a swing, 4-1. What about you, Dark? How do you think it's going to go?
Honestly, I'm waiting to see who takes the middle point in the beginning. I think if BR1 takes the middle point, they have a lot of good defensive teams or squad.
About where they're at, and then the action's going to go off. So stay tuned. And again, BR1 is taking the Allies. ESPT is going to be the Germans. Let me grab the map here. We are going live, everybody, and here's the map. So we are moving down, looks like middle to Le Grand Chemin, then cattle sheds, then off there, map side to the left to the dugout, back to middle hamlet, and far right to field. So we are going to see a lot of open combat with those flanks coming in. Dugout has some pretty good defenses. Hamlet, a little bit of urban, but a lot of fields there as well. And then the last point to fields tucked in there right on the other side of the city. So we'll see a little bit of everything, some urban combat, some open combat. So, here we go, guys, looking at the map. What do you think? What do you think about these points? What do you think about how everything's going to fall out?
So the biggest thing, dugout here, there's a lot of open ground to tread. So I think this is going to come down to tank crews being able to take out the other tanks. And then really it's going to come down to an infantry flank game.
All right, Shammer?
I think it's going to come down to the battle of the hedgerows. You're gonna see a lot of open spaces. I think it's going to come down to whoever has their tank positioned correctly in the hedgerow. It's going to come down to getting the tank in the side of the armor. Because you see a lot of open areas. I'm thinking it's going to come down to a battle of the hedgerows.
All right, and as you guys can see here, I'm actually heading over to dugout as we were talking about. A lot of defensive points here, guys. A lot of trenches. You got the hedgehogs there to prevent a little bit of tank movement coming in. You got that back little compound where you see that mark. This is going to be an interesting match. I think these points are going to be pretty good. I think this midpoint, Caesar, whoever gets this, I think is really going to have to defend it because there's not a lot of avenues of approach once you lose it.
I don't even think that it's even about who's going to be on point the heaviest. I think it's going to be the little itsy bitsy surrounding towns. Whoever gets squads into there, get their OPs and get some garrisons up around, because that's really going to be how you defend this point. It's not actually on hard cap. It's going to be the surrounding towns.
Yeah, those little hamlets surrounding little building complexes, those hedgerows. We got those. I'll actually come on over and show what I'm trying to talk about here. You got these little defensive points here along the edge, kind of like what Caesar was talking about. Not directly on the hard cap, but out here preventing any type of flanking movements. As we kind of scan around here before the match starts in a couple seconds here, we got a lot of defensive points around, blown up buildings, trenches, little hamlets all around to prevent those flanking movements. So here we go. Staging phase is done. Now we're going to have the team start coming on out. Let's see who gets here first. So, this is going to be a key. This is the key with all of our predictions here to see who can get to this point first, who can get their tanks in those positions to support the infantry. On the top left of the screen, we already have a BR1 transport truck moving in, coming down that main road. We got the supply trucks moving out to get those attacking Garys down. As we look at ESPT side, we already got, looks like a little bit of armor moving up with a supply truck and troop transport. There we go. So, ESPT getting there on point. BR1 is almost on point as well. It looks like we're going to have a nice little fight here. ESPT has already started to cap on the point, though. They have cap pressure. They have enough bodies there. And as artillery is starting to move in, there we can see ESPT right along this line, right along this hedgerow and trench line, dumping squads and trying to set themselves up on a good defensive line. As we have BR1 going straight into hard cap to try to stop this cap pressure. So, I mean, what do you guys think about this opening so far? Both teams being aggressive and getting on this midpoint.
I love the artillery coming out from both sides. You can see where they're splashing. They're marking very well. And they're being actually pretty accurate. They're taking out a lot of infantry from both sides. I think that we're going to see ESPT take this point, just judging, if you scroll out a little bit, judging on the fact that they have control of 2 of the main hamlets.
Yep, they do, as we can see it, that mark over in the top there. We have a BR1 flank squad fighting there, and as we look here, BR1 has already lost a piece of armor that was attempting to flank. So that is what we were talking about. That armor play of ESPT is on tier with some of the top out there. And as we see the other Sherman right here, trying to provide infantry support, yet getting hammered by AT from ESPT. You know, ESPT is sitting in that cover really well, preventing this armor, Ocelot, Jerbear, and Lancer from doing anything to support this infantry, trying to prevent this cap.
They are doing a wonderful job in that armor. They're making sure that the main part of their tank is facing forwards. That way it doesn't take so many hits. That's not a lot of damage they're taking, except for that last shot. I mean, they've already got 3 in them.
Yeah, they've been, and there, that armor just went down. I believe that was another piece of armor by ESPT. Yep, there we go. As we see here, you know, there's a piece of German armor. That was what was fighting that Sherman, as well as those AT troopers. Let's go over here and check out this little hamlet. This is what you were talking about, Dark. Controlling these hamlets around the point, and as we see here, ESPT is able to move in here with their initial push, and they have not lost it yet. Now BR1 is having to push up through these fields and through the openness here to try to dislodge ESPT from this point.
And at this point, being a former comp squad leader, what I would do is I'd get an MG set up looking over these fields, and I would just sit there and start pinging enemies and let the MG do work. And that's where you kind of run into where these hamlets are in such high demand to control heavily.
Yeah, and as we're looking here, BR1 has been completely wiped off of dugout and this exterior hamlet here. Looking around, I just see ESPT everywhere. Here's BR1 just behind at this big building. We have a couple squads here moving out. They're going to try to find a way to push up, try to find a flank. But that ESPT artillery is just pounding this compound, preventing BR1 from taking the most direct route.
Kind of looks to me a little bit like they're kind of disheveled a little bit. You got a one squad flanking way to the left, one squad flanking back, one squad trying to flank forward. I don't see. It doesn't look like there's really any return fire on the artillery going forward.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of BR1 artillery is still concentrating on dugout. But as we see here, we have squads falling back to cattle sheds to start getting set up for defense. As ESPT looks like they are consolidating their forces before they push.
That artillery is on strike. That one just took out 4 guys.
Yeah, there's another great artillery strike from ESPT. As we come down here and we see Mongo, Cryonic, and his speed moving up this wall towards this hedgerow. We have BR1 defense in place. And here's what you were talking about earlier. These MGs getting these positions. As we come in here and see his view, I mean, he is just absolutely controlling that entire field and able to put down accurate fire along that entire hedgerow, keeping BR1 heads down so they're not able to spot this advance by the rest of his squad moving up here on the side.
And I mean, I want to know where his squad leader's at, because I got a feeling his squad leader's sitting there with binocs and just pinpointing people for him.
I would imagine his squad lead's right here, his speed, and he is probably doing exactly what you're saying. He's pinpointing these locations, giving his MG, good vectors of fire so they're able to get that accurate fire down on, as well as getting that artillery into accurate positions to rain shells down on BR1.
Looks like a squad from the right side is coming to give them a relief.
Yeah, BR1 looks like they're trying to figure out how to get out of this little hamlet here and push up to dugout, but as we can see in the distance, ESPT has defense watching that flank as well. You know, here comes Mongo taking out Huzzah, taking out an OP. The kid's able to take out Mongo there, but now they don't have an OP to spawn, and they got to spawn back and move across.
Now, I've had the pleasure of playing with the kid. And I can tell you this right now: if you want somebody to do some hard work and do some hard slaying, the kid is definitely one of those guys.
Yeah, the kid has come out multiple times and showed his abilities in multiple matches. As we now scan over here, looking at the BR1 defense, kind of spreading out along the cap point here, making sure they're not all centralized so artillery can get them, getting their OPs in good positions, getting their MGs in good positions to watch open fields. I mean, here we have CPAC up on the roof, which is going to be a great position to watch that road, and as he's moving up to get a better view, watch that road in front of us here and be able to keep an eye on that flank as well. But as we see here, ESPT starting to move across this field and put a little bit of pressure on cattle sheds.
If you zoom up past their defensive lines, you can see they got a scout, what looks to be almost like a Cav scout sitting back there, spotting their defensive structure.
Yeah,
sitting behind the hamlet.
Yep, we got.
Is that a tank or is that an AT point that's raining down fire on that point?
I'm going to imagine that that is armor, as we can see right there. That is armor hiding behind a hedgerow, just raining shells down on the defensive point, keeping BR1 pinned. As now we see here, ESPT pushing into where BR1 has been spawning. And with these marks, we can see enemy armor. So ESPT armor has gone all the way back here and is now harassing BR1 armor as they're trying to get up. We have a little, light here. We got a recon Puma sitting around here harassing them. That's what they did in the previous match that we had them. They had those recon tanks and light tanks just harassing armor everywhere because of their maneuverability.
Yep. And they have an infantry squad, like I said, to just kind of help make sure that they don't get flanked by AT.
Yep. That great tactics there. As they're getting, as now here, as we can see, they're getting that recon tank to try to get behind the Sherman, but the Sherman's able to maneuver themselves in the right position and take it out. Great job by Major Ocelot's crew there. As we move into this hamlet where most of the combat is, watching BR1 try to hold it, keep their garrison up as they're getting attacked by all sides. As we move over here, we have Sea Green back here, who just got taken down, trying to get eyes on, as we have top Spitfire, Pollo Loco coming on down, harassing BR1, using that cover of those hedgerows to move down that road.
And if you notice, they're coming down in a staggered column formation, about 20 meters spread, so nothing's going to take all three of them out with one shot.
Exactly. Great movement on their part. As we move over here to defense, ESPT has been able to remove a lot of the BR1 defenders on the front of this point as they're starting to get squads coming in from the south side of cattle sheds, as BR1 now is going to have to reassert themselves on this defensive point. We have Battle Jehovah, Juliet, Pio, Deerslayer, CPAC, Major Oinky, and Scotty all here in cattle sheds trying to make sure that they don't lose it as a defensive squad. Well, we have Cool, Polak, Excel, Nothing, Boomer, and Arcadian coming in, following these hedgerows with good cover, and trying to move in here and dislodge the BR1 defense. Scotty goes down to Nothing. Nuclear is coming in. See if we can get on in here and see what's going to happen. As we have Major Oinky and Nuclear looking opposite directions of each other in the same building. Oinky's looking at Nothing there, and he gets taken out by a grenade from Nothing, as ESPT is now capping cattle sheds. This is what we were talking about earlier, the power of this artillery, as Excel takes out Super PP Downers, and Viking and Arcadian are in the field here together. See if they see each other here. Arcadian's able to take out Viking. Former Tree Herder gets taken out from the flank as well. So as we see here, ESPT is able to remove the defense with the help of that artillery and really exert the pressure here as they are capping. What's concerning to me, and Shammer and Dark, let me know your thoughts on it, is we have these assault squads for BR1 still up and around dugout, still trying to push, while defense here is struggling. I mean, would you want to pull guys back?
So it's kind of a double-edged dagger. If you're not putting pressure on, that means that the other team can then put more pressure back on that point that you're at. So, I mean, it depends on how many squads you have. If I had 2, I would pull back 1. That way you still keep pressure on the other point. But you definitely don't want to withdraw everybody at once. If the point goes, that's when you have everybody, you know, despawn and respawn at the following point.
Yep, and as we see here, we have BR1 armor here trying to stay alive as they're being harassed by enemy AT. Looks like Excel here is trying to get a satchel down as he is now on top of the armor. And it looks like we do have some help from the BR1 team here, spawning back up at that hamlet again, trying to move along those hedgerows to dislodge ESPT, as ESPT is 75% capped on cattle sheds.
Now what I would do tactically is I would withdraw 2 squads, put 1 squad on the nearest hedgerow, guarding your rear flank, and push another squad up. Because at least then, if someone pushes past you, you're not going to be able to get around the edges, and you can have a squad focus on straight on assault. Because at this point, you're almost focused on a zero blitz tactic, where meaning you're going to have to send everybody up and forget the nearest OP, and you're going to have to send to the next objective.
So as we see here, just BR1 squad led by Leon Thotsky is able to get his guys into this point, and they have restarted a cap as they are now in here fighting History Builder, Leon Thotsky, and Mims trying to get these infantry from ESPT removed and out of here, as we look behind us and see the BR1 defense set up here back on LeGrand to make sure that they don't get back capped.
That was the commander that just went down for BR1.
Yep, commander just went down right there with that troop transport. Around, ESPT has cleared out most of the flanks of BR1, and they're starting to work on an encircle of cattle sheds.
The problem with the Shermans is they're not sticking with the infantry. They're trying to go solo. They can see where their friendlies are on the map. They need to go into switch from squad comms into local comms and tell those guys to start following them to give them a reprieve from all the infantry.
Yep, and here we go. ESPT has been able to remove the threat from BR1 as they are started to cap again on cattle sheds. With not a lot of BR1 visible right now, we have artillery raining down on cattle sheds. There's another squad coming in, but they're getting hit from their flank as well. As we have here the Panther moving up. Or is that the 3? That's the 3. Or the Panzer 4, excuse me, moving up to give support to ESPT assault as they're coming in here. So, you know, good job by the BR1 assault, falling back and trying to give them some support here on cattle sheds, but BR1 really needs to get some more bodies up here and get rid of some of this ESPT armor, as we also have some ESPT infantry moving up on the last point already. So as we see here, a lot of BR1 spawning in the back line, trying to move up. If we look into that far field, there was a troop transport that just got taken out by ESPT. BR1 trying to get back up there, put some pressure on the cap. However, ESPT is still capping cattle sheds, and it looks like they're about to get it. Let's get in here and see what's going on. We have History Builder and Lionheart in this building trying to hold it down, trying to keep cap pressure, as Lionheart just gets taken down by Cool Polak. History Builder is the only one left, and ESPT takes cattle sheds. So now let's come on back here as we see a few BR1 members get taken out as they're trying to hold defense, as we see the entire team spawning back line to move up to LeGrand to support the defense here. So from either team, I haven't seen a lot of flanking going on. I've seen a lot of forward assaults just kind of going right into the teeth here. Not a lot of flanks, but it seems to be working for ESPT, as they're just trying to grind BR1 down and get into these points.
What I'm seeing from ESPT is that they have their main assault going in, and then they're using their tanks out at a distance to get their long shots over these open fields.
Yep,
I mean,
as we
that's
see the BR1 Sherman here on defense get taken out as well from that Panzer IV.
right, and that's what I'm talking about. They're literally just shooting down the tanks, and you're right that the tanks aren't going up with the infantry, so then they're getting just ran over by infantry.
Yeah, as we see here, the German Lux here takes out Ehan, takes out Mims, as it's coming in on the flank. As now we're starting to see an ESPT flank develop as they're moving down on the western flank here of this point, kind of right in between two BR1 squads, with that Lux kind of leading the charge, as it looks like the Lux is moving towards the artillery positions. We still have one BR1, looks like, on cattle sheds. We'll go take a look, see who's the lucky guy is. Its history builder is still here, as Cryotic and Spitfire do not know where he's at, as he is just hiding there, hoping for backup to get there so they can start a cap on that point. That is a brave lad right there in the middle of enemy territory.
I mean, if I'm history builder, I'm waiting to see it go to 1-1, and then at that point in time, I'm looking for OPs, I'm looking for Garrison, I'm looking for whatever I could do to kind of take out those points. One guy on the front's not going to make a difference. But one guy in the back can make a huge difference.
Exactly. As we now see BR1 trying to settle themselves into this defense, as we see, I'm going to imagine, is ESPT artillery smoke just setting a line there to give their infantry and armor the ability to move up without being spotted.
Now, if I'm already on BR1, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start pounding the cattle sheds without mercy. You just want to hammer that point until you know for a fact that it's cleared out.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like History Builder was eventually found and he was taken out. However, that he did force ESPT to spend time to find him, which gives defense a little bit of a reprieve. As we look out here on the eastern flank, we have one defensive squad fighting ESPTs. And out here on the western flank, it looks like their flanking movement was thwarted by BR1. I do not see the Lux. I would imagine it was taken out. As we're going to come over here and check out this eastern flank, as BR1 is just getting shredded by the ESPT gunplay. As Drazik, former tree herder, and Von Yarker here are trying to find positions to hold this flank and give their defense a little bit more of a reprieve. As former tree herder gets taken out by Lost in that bunker, and here's Super PP Downers and Viking spawning, trying to find Manimal, who is a recon spotter.
I love how BR1 is labeling or marking all of these tanks. It's not just one person seeing it; it's multiple squads all at once.
Super PP is able to take out Manimal. They're holding this eastern flank well. Let's get back here. As we can see, ESPT is not really pushing into Legrand yet. I don't know if it's because they're trying to regroup, or BR1 is just able to hold them off. As we see BR1 having a pretty decent defensive line here with just a little gap there along those hedgerows. As we see here, Excel moving in, taken out by Thoughtski or Satchel. As ESPT is trying to establish their flanks in that front line to push in. BR1 defense is doing a fantastic job of preventing them.
So Legrand, just from previous games, is probably one of the hardest points to actually attack. The problem is every corner is an open field. So you only really have your infantry has roads to go down. So really just a couple of MGs can hold down Legrand for a pretty long period of time.
You know, as we can see, talking about that armor play, we have two blown out Shermans here. ESPT doing a really good job of preventing the BR1 armor from having their way out here. You know, looking back out on that east side, BR1 defense out there is able to take out any flanking action there and solidify themselves. Over here on the western flank, looks like ESPT is having a little bit more of their way. As we also have a squad leader right here, Hornet, for ESPT, harassing artillery and able to spot these armor units as they're coming out. That's a great position by him, not giving it up. And now he's going to move into artillery and harass these artillery guys as they're trying to give cover to BR1. So at this point, with the spread, Shammer, What would your move be to try to go up and take cattle sheds?
First thing the armor needs to do is find a hedgerow. They keep going in open fields, getting taken out. Obviously, that tactic's not working. Somebody needs to take charge and start leading the way. What I would do is I'd move a tank up to a hedgerow, park it for a minute, survey the battlefield. Second thing I would do is I take 2 squads. You're going to make a pincer movement. You're going to take the left flank and right flank and collapse them. Then, since you're on the last point, you're going 0 blitz, 1 squad up the middle. You're going to do three-pronged attack.
That would be a fantastic strategy. We'll see if BR1 can pull it off. As we're looking here at Pio with the MG, just holding this field down, preventing any type of movement from ESPT to push across it, even with that smoke. That is a great MG position by Pio there. If we zoom back out, we have Excel has worked his way back in, moving his way up into this building, trying to find CPAC, I would imagine, and he's right on top of him. He takes out CPAC with a melee so he doesn't give his position away. So ESPT is finding ways into LeGrand as 2 BR1 members get taken out behind that little building there, as we now see this flank again on the western side develop. And we just got the notification they started to capture, but BR1 is able to prevent that by getting a few more bodies on the cap point.
So, at this point in time, what BR1 really needs to do, just from the perspective of comp, is they need to put 1 squad solely on this point, and then they need to split a second squad and have them run around getting rid of these OPs. Because there's too many enemy OPs around this point.
Yeah, you can see some Garrison OP marks going out from the BR1 guys, trying to figure out where these guys are spawning from. But I'm just seeing, and here's Voldemar taking out Oinky. Interceptor trying to find him. He was harassing the armor, or the artillery, as we see the artillery guys getting off to take him out. Interceptor's able to get him, so now you can jump back onto artillery and start supporting. But, there's a bombing strike by the Allies on, I believe that was a piece of armor, or it was a vehicle, as you see that bigger explosion. We'll come out here and take a look and see what it was. Yeah, that looks like that was a Tiger. Nope, that was a Panther. So that was a heavy tank that was taken out by a very nice precision airstrike. But looking back here, ESPT has removed that defensive flanking squad of BR1, as they're now going to push in from both flanks, as they have openings. I would like to see a BR1 squad find one of these flanks and move up. As we see here off in the distance, we have a transport truck with Mikey, who is the commander, trying to get out, trying to get a garrison down somewhere to give his guys some reprieve so they can find a flank to put some pressure on cattle sheds. Because right now, cattle sheds is open, as we do see, here we go, a BR1 flank moving into cattle sheds. Mims, Yago, Black, Ehan, and Bon Yarker, who was taken out, moving into cattle sheds, trying to get some cap pressure there, give some pressure off of LeGrand and force these guys to fall back.
And right here could be the swing if they are successful.
Yep, if BR1 is able to get in here, take out the defensive garrisons and OPs, they may have a decent line moving forward. As we also see back here, a big spawn. This was what Mikey was trying to do, get a garrison out here. That was a close call for them, but get a garrison out here, giving their guys a flank into cattle sheds. As we fall back here, though, ESPT is capping LeGrand as BR1 is trying to reestablish themselves on the defensive side, as we do have a 5 ESPT moving in. It looks like both recon squads, or a recon squad and a smaller element moving in to either put some rear pressure on LeGrand and really harass this artillery for BR1, as Epson and Tom is able to do that. With Royal and Billy now are going to have to get off those guns to defend themselves as the Interceptor went down.
That's a great move by ESPT, because that not only is getting rid of the arty, but that's also canceling out that spawn.
Yeah,
So
they're
they
doing
won't
a
be able to
fantastic
find that
job
closer
there.
point of LeGrand.
Yep, as we see here, Royal is still on the gun, as Tom there is now digging down a node, trying to... There you go. Now all BR1 artillery is taken out. That spawn point is now canceled, as ESPT has multiple squads here on LeGrand, as BR1 is capturing cattle sheds. However, they just got neutralized And BR1 just needs to get bodies on this last point, or it's going to be all over as the cap is going down rather quickly. As we just see ESPT, Whimsy, Mongo, Arcadian, Spitfire swarming Thick Cup, Bacon, and Satchel for BR1 as they're trying to get on that point and provide some cap pressure. I don't see, BR1, like you just said, they were able, ESPT was able to take out that mid spawn, and now they just have complete control of this. The game is over, 30 minutes. Thanks for tuning in, guys. ESPT comes out with the victory there. What are your final thoughts on it?
Personally, I think it came down to, I'm guessing it came down to communication. BR1 seemed to be at times from screen view kind of out of sorts. They seemed to get, they had a plan and then they got punched in the face and they didn't know how to react.
Dark, what's your take on it?
I think that communication is key, on top of the fact of, it's ESPT that we have BR1 that just pretty much started going back in the comp scene, so this is a good learning experience for them, as well as they're going up against a very veteran community whenever it comes to this. So they could take, hoping that they take some of those points and learn from it, as well as really focus more on their infantry game. I didn't see a lot of those big flanks except for right there at the end, which we know they can do.
Yeah, I think what it really came down to is the combined arms play of ESPT able to get in there, able to really work their armor with the infantry to provide that support, like you called out earlier in the match. So, I think BR1's got a lot to learn, but I think they put up a pretty good fight there. I think, Shamri brought up a good point with communication. I think the communication could have been better. Granted, we weren't hearing the BR1 communication. We were seeing a lot of marks, and they were getting the marks out there for the guys to know what was going on. But as the match went on, the marks also kind of disappeared as they were getting more into the fight. So, what final thoughts, Shammer, on the match?
I mean, they face stiff competition. There's always room to grow. I'm sure there's going to probably be some practices coming out of this, which is a good thing. Sometimes you need to get stomped. It's never good to win every single time, because then you get complacent.
All right, and Dark, your final thoughts for the match?
Pretty much going to piggyback off of what Shammer says here. So the only time that it's an actual loss is if BR1 doesn't learn anything from it. So if they learn from it on how to add to their strategies and how to push in a different way that helps them down the road, this is a win for them, at least on a learning experience. They may have lost the little fight here, but hopefully they take it and learn from it and grow.
Yeah, I think those are two really good points. I agree with both of you. I think the takeaways for BR1 is, just grow with it, figure out the armor, get your armor a little bit better supported by infantry, and, just keep pushing on. Don't let this get them down. So with that, this is Matador, Dark Caesar, and a former Shammer for BR1 signing off. Thanks, guys, who were here. Tune in next time for the next match as it gets scheduled. We also do Beyond the Wire Firefight 6s. We have some postscriptum stuff coming up soon. Stay tuned. A lot of stuff coming on the channel. Again, thank you for your time. This is Matador signing off. Thanks, guys.